All right, guys, make sure you listen real carefully to what he's about to say, because this is the script they're about to do a rerun of now. This is what's coming.
Type kid. For Timothy McVeigh, guns would become a lifelong passion.
McVeigh's decision to join the Army in 1988 comes after high school and a series of dead-end jobs. With his love of guns, this is a natural fit for him.
He and his...
All right, did you hear that little subtle undertone to demonize gun owners, to make gun owners sound scary? Well, get ready, because that playbook is coming again. Now, how do I know this? Well, there's a saying, history doesn't always repeat itself, but it does often rhyme. Now, I think it does both. Sometimes it repeats itself, and sometimes it just rhymes. Regardless, all the signs seem to be there that is the playbook they're going to run with again. I mean, I'm seeing some of these articles out there where, there's a threat that this was going to happen or that was going to happen. And you can see that's the direction they're steering this. Now, some of you may think, oh, great, well, nothing happened at this event or that event. And, that's good that nothing stupid happened. But even them just putting these articles out there, this propaganda out there, is advancing their agenda to start planting those seeds of fear or doubt that conservatives, gun owners, libertarians, people who have a right-wing belief, or just pretty much anybody who isn't a flaming big government statist, to be viewed or suspected as a threat or a terrorist, to be feared. It's planting those seeds of propaganda of fear in people's minds. So they're still trying to advance that. And if nothing stupid happens, great. But at first, they will try organically to get you to do something. They will try to provocateur real people into doing stuff on their own. That way, there's less risk involved and less evidence to tie them to anything. However, if nobody takes the bait, then they will eventually start engineering and planning things. Then they will start trying to, start a false flag event or plan a false flag event and carry it out. Or if the people who organically take the bait just don't get the desired results, kind of like in the Capitol the other day, that was apparently supposed to be worse than what it was. And fortunately, it was not. But don't think for 1 minute I'm saying give up your guns and just roll over and blah, 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 blah. Give up your rights peacefully, BS. That's not what I'm saying. But don't do anything stupid offensively. Don't do anything stupid, period. We never want to do anything stupid because, if it's stupid, it obviously isn't going to work out on our behalf. But I'm not talking about giving up any more of our rights or giving up any more freedom or complying with any kind of unconstitutional laws, especially something as blatantly unconstitutional as any more gun control restrictions. Because if we roll over anymore, there won't be any bit of a Second Amendment left. I'm simply saying, don't initiate any kind of stupidity. Don't let someone provoke you into doing something stupid. Don't let somebody manipulate you into doing something stupid. And don't let somebody compromise you. Whether it's somebody who's doing it intentionally or even someone who maybe is doing it unwittingly and doesn't know better. They just aren't thinking ahead. But you have to think ahead. But be prepared for this propaganda, because I'm telling you it's coming. All the signs are there. And a lot of the same players are involved, like Biden. All right, as we get towards the end of my video, I included some video and audio footage from other documentaries and other sources regarding the biggest false flag of the 1990s. Now, I did this because I wanted to give you guys a good historical, real-world example of what's to come, because they're going to rerun this script again, or a very similar one. As the saying goes, we've seen the show before. So be ready for it. Don't get caught off guard by it, and don't fall for it. Do not fall for it. Now, I'm sure a lot of you out there already know a lot of these facts that I've included in these video clips. People who are accurately researched on the details of history, because as they say, the devil's in the details. People in what's called the truther movement, I'm sure they know. But there's a lot of people out there who don't, including people who claim to be awake. So I just wanted to give you some points and some interesting information to quickly think about. However, I was not intending to make any kind of documentary on this incident. There's already plenty out there. I encourage you guys to look it up. Plenty of good sources, whether it be the Corbett Report's coverage of it, A Noble Lie is a good documentary about it, and there's several other sources. There's nothing I can add. My intent was just to warn you that this same thing is coming again. Make sure you have your volume up, because for some reason the sound didn't transfer over well from some of these videos. And just really listen and think about it and do your full research. But I definitely think that you will find the first video clip very, very interesting, considering who it involves and what they're involved in now. Thanks for watching. Stay safe. Pray to God for mercy, wisdom, and strength. And be ready to defend your liberty and your rights. Not one more inch.
What would the government stand to gain from this? Firstly, PatCon gained its objective of discrediting militias, gun rights groups, and those concerned about governmental overreach once and for all in the mind of the American public.
The United States of America. They believe that the United States government is prepared to usurp the Constitution and break down doors and confiscate guns. Am I lying to these people, Bob Fletcher and Jim Trockman?
John Trockman.
John, sorry, it says John here. You believe this?
No, not quite like that.
Living in the woods?
No.
No, you're not. Is anybody in Montana?
Just their plain homes.
You're sitting next to Ray Southwell, who does, from Michigan. You gather in the woods, don't you? In Michigan?
When we train?
Yeah,
That's correct.
but you're not living there.
I don't quite understand when you say living there. I live in northern Michigan, and I have 20 acres that I live on, and there's a house there.
Right.
Secondly, an ATF that had suffered a severe backlash from its mishandling of events at Ruby Ridge and Waco could win public support and sympathy by parading as the victim of anti-government crazies. Thirdly, it provided new life to the Omnibus Counterterrorism Act of 1995, a controversial bill introduced by Joe Biden 2 months before the bombing that would have given police broad new powers to use secret sources and secret evidence in terrorism proceedings. Widely denounced as an affront to civil liberties, the bill was languishing in committee. But all that changed on April 19, 1995. The very day after the blast at the Murrah Building, the New York Times wrote about the bill that, after the Oklahoma City bombing, there were few surer legislative bets in Washington. The legislation morphed into the Anti-Terrorism and Effective Death Penalty Act of 1996 and was passed the next year, with President Clinton specifically linking the bill to the bombing in his signing statement. Years later, Biden claimed that his original bill was the core of what eventually became the Patriot Act. Fourthly, the bombing also conveniently destroyed a number of documents that were proving to be problematic for the Clinton administration.
The majority of people still believe that Timothy McVeigh was a right-wing extremist who bombed the Oklahoma City building with a Ryder truck because he was upset with the government. People close to the event told a very different story.
For 20 years, a handful of tireless researchers have been working to expose the lies surrounding the legend of Timothy McVeigh, the lone wolf terrorist mastermind. And what they have uncovered has been remarkable. These researchers are not isolated cranks, but U.S. Air Force weapons experts, Oklahoma state representatives, FBI whistleblowers, government informants, attorneys, eyewitnesses, veteran journalists, and many others whose direct experience contradicts the narrative of the OKC bombing that we have been told. But perhaps the most compelling contradiction of the official story comes from McVeigh himself. According to the official account, McVeigh had set his sights early on in his military career on joining the Special Forces. As a colonel in the U.S. Air Force and Chief of Special Operations for the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Prouty worked from 1955 to 1964 as the liaison procuring military supplies, equipment, and logistics support for CIA Special Operations worldwide. In his 1973 tell-all, The Secret Team, Prouty discussed the inner workings of America's intelligence community, noting, "Sheep-dipped is an intricate Army-devised process by which a man who is in the service as a full-career soldier or officer agrees to go through all the legal and official motions of resigning from the service. Then, rather than actually being released, his records are pulled from the Army personnel files and transferred to a special Army intelligence file. Substitute, but nonetheless real-appearing records are then processed, and the man leaves the service. He is encouraged to write to friends and give a cover reason why he got out. He goes to his bank and charge card services and changes his status to civilian, and does the hundreds of other official and personal things that any man would do if he really had gotten out of the service. Meanwhile, his real army records are kept in secrecy, but not forgotten.
There were also multiple reports that explosives were found inside the Murrah building.
The Justice Department is reporting that a second explosive device has been found in the AP Murrah building in downtown Oklahoma City. Mike, you're still with us, aren't you?
Yes, I am, and I might tell you in addition to that, in fact, what we were told at the scene a few minutes ago was that in fact 2 different explosive devices were found in addition to the one that went off.
The second explosive was found and diffused. The third explosive that was found, and they are working on right now as we speak, I understand, both the second and third explosives, if you can imagine this, were larger than the first.
Bomb squads were actually caught on video pulling into the building to retrieve these devices.
They'll back that trailer down there, and the bomb squad folks will go in, and they will use that trailer. You see the bucket on the back there, sort of, this is how they would transport the explosive device away from this populated area to try to do something with it.
I just took a look down the street at the Murrah building again. I see another bomb truck going, so apparently they're going to try to get out that third bomb that's been talked about.
Another witness who spoke to ABC News on the condition of anonymity will tell the grand jury tomorrow he was told by an ATF official agents working in the building had been warned in advance not to come to work.
He just came out and told me that the ATF wasn't in the building that day. They'd been tipped by their pagers not to come to work, which I was flabbergasted.
McVeigh would even claim in a letter written to his sister, which was published by the New York Times, that he was actually recruited for black operations, which included smuggling drugs into the United States, as well as assassinations. One may brush this off as the ravings of a madman. However, McVeigh was filmed at the Camp Grafton military facility in North Dakota on August 3rd, 1993. McVeigh's official records state that he was discharged over a year prior from the Army Reserve in May of 1992. Perhaps even more interesting is that Camp Grafton was specializing in training troops in explosives and demolitions at the time.
Corporate mainstream media is essential to a cover-up like Oklahoma City being successful. And that's why the mainstream media has lost so much credibility. Because all over the nation, people have seen things like Oklahoma City over and over again, where you see the live footage, you see them removing the bombs, you see the governor admitting it. And then later the media says, we never said that. That's what conspiracy theorists say.
At first, the media...
Second bomb was found on the east side of that building. A bomb squad is on the scene. That second bomb has not exploded. We don't know quite the status yet, if they've managed to defuse it, but it has been confirmed.
There have been reports of 2 explosive devices, unexploded explosive devices.
2 different explosive devices were found in addition to the one that went off.
Just an hour after the initial explosion, downtown Oklahoma City was shaken up again with word of another bomb, or maybe 2.
Even the first bomb that was in the federal building did go off. It did the damage that you see right there. The second explosive was found and diffused.
The Oklahoma City bombing was one of the first big stories that I covered, and it was just shocking to know it was an inside job and to know that the media was involved in the cover-up and that the mainstream television stations there in Oklahoma City knew what had really happened. And then years later, I was able to actually talk to some of those reporters, and they discussed how they were told to shut up. I mean, it just showed how people were so willing to be part of the cover-up just because the truth was so frightening. And that's really why we become so enslaved, is that we just give in to the lies, and they start little, but they get bigger and bigger.
The paramedic who responded to the bombing, Tiffany Bible, confirms that the ATF were not in their office and in fact may have been aware of some type of threat that day. In this affidavit, she states that immediately after the bombing, she asked an ATF agent on the scene if any of them were in the building. He responded, "No, we weren't in there today," and that the Murrah building was bombed because of Waco. She further states that within the first 20 minutes of the bombing, she saw at least 8 ATF agents outside the building in clean black jumpsuits. To this day, the ATF has been unwilling to address their prior knowledge of the bombing.